Welcome everyone to Awesome Truth, a wrestling book club. I'm your host, Steve Semino, and with me as always is my co-host, Walt Schwenk. Hey, Walters.
Hello, Steven. How's it going?
My friend, it is going very well. Welcome back, everyone. We are here again on Awesome Truth, and we are revisiting an idea that many other wrestling podcasts have done, but that we are implementing now. We're doing a watch-along, Walt. We previously did this with Lex Luger and Yokozuna. Their body slamming, the Yokozuna Body Slam Challenge on the Battleship for July 4th. And we're back again, Walt, because it's WarGames time, and we're here to talk WarGames.
Yeah, WarGame. Just like us stealing ideas from the past, WWE is stealing ideas from the past for the main roster and implementing WarGames in the Triple H era. And so let's all just watch shit from the past and do it, I guess. That's where we're coming from.
That's right. Well, we wanted to watch a very specific WarGames, though. I think, for most people of our generation, I would say there's one that stands out. And Walt, I know you've already consumed this, and we're going to go and a bunch of other WarGames today. So am I right that this is the one that that at least like in people's heads stands out, even if in the reality we're about to see it does not?
This stands out to me, this particular one, and I guess I should just name it at this point versus talk about it at length and then say, oh, it's this one. We're talking 1997 Fall Brawl, and it's this like hodgepodge nWo like team of Syxx. It's Nash, it's Buff Bagwell, and it's Konnan versus the Four Horsemen, 1997 edition. And then this is when Curt Hennig takes the place of Arn Anderson. So we can talk about the lead up to that. But that's the WarGames that I guess is near and dear to me. Although rewatching it, a lot of this stuff does not age as well as I remember it, but it's still like the one I remember the most out of any WarGame.
Yeah, and that's probably because we were 12, and this was the hottest WCW era by far. So I mean, it makes sense as the one we'd remember. But I mean, it's also it's a big story match too. Like it's WarGames now on the NXT end is associated with feuds for sure, but also getting some of their best workers, best characters in the ring, sort of maybe loosely aligning them before the show, and then letting a lot of cool shit happen. For replay value, for these hype videos, for YouTube, like it's all that kind of stuff. But back then for this one, it was purely like are the Four Horsemen going to be able to withstand the NWO, defend WCW's legacy? And of course the answer was no, they're not.
Wow. That's a common theme in WarGames in the 90s.
And a common theme in the NWR is, will WCW stand up for itself? Absolutely not.
Nope.
They will. They will get pantsed immediately.
So we should get into it because there's going to be, as just like I learned with many other WarGames for the 90s, there's a lot of dead time where we can fill in that silence with commentary.
And Walt, tell everyone what this is again. This is Fall Brawl 97. What's the timestamp here?
The timestamp is on Peacock. I guess there's no other way to really watch this except for
or your Fall Brawl 97 VHS if you own that.
Yeah, would be so. Yeah, in that case, then you're shit out of luck. But in the case of streaming, it's 2 hours and 14 minutes on the dot. You'll see that weird Halloween Havoc
with Macho Man. I just saw that was on my birthday too. 97. I was 12 years old the day of that Halloween Havoc.
You probably got that.
I probably had us all over. I don't remember which one that was, but we can talk about it. We can look that up as we go.
Yeah. So that is the time mark.
All right. So, Walt, you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready to go. Hopefully, listeners, you're ready to go as well. Let's watch some more games. Hit play in 3, 2, 1.
Play.
There, you should be seeing the end of the Halloween Havoc commercial.
And you should be calling your satellite and cable company.
And now you should be seeing Michael Buffer. That's how you know it's a big WCW match. Michael Buffer is there.
Michael Buffer was such a nice touch to these main events for WCW.
I really don't think it works for WarGames. It's a little weird, Like he feels like a one-on-one guy.
Yeah.
Like, do you think he is? Do you think he even understands what WarGames is? I'm sure he understands. Like, logically, do you think he gives the slightest shit about this?
This guy doesn't know what the hell's going on in any wrestling, anything outside of boxing. But it still just like gave a big fight feel. It's like, it's small things like that WCW implemented that like WWE and back then WWF should have and never really did, and they haven't since. So.
Yep. No, they did. Well, Bischoff had a really good sense of when to incorporate real things. When to give it a sense of actual occurring, as opposed to, even in WWF's Attitude Glory days, like it never felt genuine. It was always wrestling. This took on a little bit of an air above wrestling. But again, when you do it for a WarGames match, then it's sort of just like, okay, it's a big dumb steel cage. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Michael Buffer just feels a little off for that. But your point well taken. Yeah. That was a really good idea overall.
In the '98 WarGames, he did call Stevie Ray Steve Ray, and
wait. So tell me about. Let's talk as we're prepping here. Tell me about your WarGames experiences and watching a bunch leading up to this.
Well, I know like Meltzer's like 5-star ratings. Like always has, like 1,000 Japanese matches in the '90s, and then there's like a couple WrestleMania matches, and then like there's in the early '90s there's like a few WarGames that got 5-star ratings. It's like one of them was like the Dangerous Alliance versus like Sting Squad, and another was Sting Squad again versus like the Four Horsemen.
Was it the same Sting Squad or was it a different Sting Squad?
Different Sting Squad.
Okay.
They both got 5-star like ratings, and it's like, I was curious. It's like, well, because none of these other WarGames in the late '90s came anywhere close to a 5-star rating, I'm sure. But like, maybe the other ones were. But like, this is the same tropes. It's the same like start stop. Like, it just, I don't know why they got the 5-star outside of the fact that these matches were novel in '91, '92, and by the '97, '98, like not only were they not novel, we kind of understood the premise and like all the tropes, and the heels will always get the coin toss, spoiler alert, and also like they just became more to advance the plot and less about less of like a blow off for a feud. So I guess that's why those ones in the early '90s were like rated a lot higher than these, but like they weren't that like amazing to me.
They weren't like workers showdowns or highlight reels or anything like that.
They were, but like it was just like no one did anything special. Like it's not like stunning Steve Austin like put on a wrestling clinic.
Yeah.
Like he was a really good worker, but like so is Chris Benoit, the one we're about to watch.
Yeah.
But you're still in this like tiny cage, so it's like there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, this is always taken on sort of mythic feelings in people's minds, I believe, at this point. Like it's such a great gimmick, it's such a great match, everything about it works perfectly. It's a great blow off, it's great for stories, but I think as we're going to see here, like I don't think that's really true. Like I guess it can lead to iconic moments, as this match ends with a iconic moment for sure, but we're going to spend a half hour getting there, and I don't think we're necessarily going to enjoy the half hour, and I don't think it's as made for these team, like maybe it works better when it's sort of a hodgepodge, when it's like when you have a stable versus a stable. I don't know if that's because like this isn't where the feud ends. Like the feud never ends with this for real, I mean, maybe that was WCW's fault. Like in these later '90s ones, it's just another step in an endless back and forth. And if this isn't a blow off, then what even is it?
Right. It's just a lot of rising action, but there's never like. They never come to a resolution.
Yeah, look at this nWo team.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I mean, I think these guys are all great, but should they be in the main event? Like, why couldn't they just switch Macho Man? And like, this card is so bad, and the nWo is featured throughout. I don't understand why they couldn't just move some stuff around and put the actual big names in the WarGames match.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, like the big names were like Hogan.
Yeah,
and like a year later, it was like Hogan and the Warrior were like the big names. And it's like
Hogan isn't even on this card. Do we have any idea why?
I think he was filming something at this point.
Well,
or didn't he take off for a little bit? No, he was the champion at this point.
He was the champion. I looked it up at Havoc '97 on my birthday, and a month and change from this match, he faces Piper in a cage. So Maybe he just didn't want to work WarGames, which I'm sure he got paid regardless. So
Yeah, he gets those pay-per-view residuals no matter
yeah.
whether he's on the card or not. What I do like about this, though, which is why it's memorable to me, is like it wasn't just like main eventers for the sake of main eventers. It like there was an actual storyline here where then these NWO guys troll the shit out of like Arn Anderson's shoot retirement from wrestling. And
it is the most insufferable NWO guys. You know, it's Buff, it's Konnan, and it's Syxx. Like, those are the pests. Those are the troublemakers.
Right. But I like that they recognize that this was a feud worth putting in a double cage, because, like, you know, at that point the NWO was feuding with everybody, but like this is like this is the reason why this match to me exists, where it's like, you guys just need to just like beat the crap out of each other and, you know, settle something. And every other iteration in the late 90s was kind of just like what you're saying, where it's like, let's just put big names in there. But like Hogan should never be in this match. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. There's just no, if you're the champion, you should have solo feuds at this point. Like, maybe you're not in, like, or have a non-title match or a tag match or something, you know? This is when you throw your Jay Leno match in there, you know? And then Hogan does that, and then you have a WarGames. Like, maybe that's a horrible idea, but your point is very smart, that, like, there's no reason for the champion to get involved here.
Well, just, like, these guys had a reason, and, like, the cage, like, you know, you could call them, I don't want to call any of these guys mid-carders, per se, but, like...
I mean, Mongo is the mid-carder.
Well, guys, definitely Mongo, definitely Buff, but, like, you know... But like, I guess my point is, it wasn't random. It wasn't like, oh, the NWO versus Horsemen. It was like these four guys from the NWO versus like these four guys of the Horsemen.
Yeah,
it's
in
like,
a four-man stable of importance. Yeah, maybe that's why this field felt good when we were younger, and certainly and has continued to feel good as we got older, is because it was, for a WarGames, neat and tidy and well planned and. I mean, I'm sure this match is going to be crap, but well executed. You know, it's the storyline goes exactly as we all. I remember even at this age, you knew what was going to happen. You're like, well, sure, Curt Hennig's going to be, especially post Hogan turning. You're like, okay, I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop constantly, but it's but that's fine. Like we always talk on this show, like some of the best angles are what we all see coming, and you do it right, and we all respond like fans should. You know, we all boo. Like that's the whole point here. So even if it was obvious and rote, like, it still works. In my memory, it still works.
Didn't. Well, this one felt premeditated. It didn't feel like, oh, we're just gonna put, like, we're gonna have a turn for the sake of turning. It wasn't like Russo booking. Like, they thought this one out. It seemed like the turn was a little premeditated, and they built it for weeks, and it wasn't just like car wreck booking.
If I remember correctly, one of the issues, and sorry, spoiler, I'm sure we've already made it clear what happens if you don't know. If I remember, one of the issues is that they never really pay this off, the turn here, right?
No, they just kept feuding. But
it should have been building to some Hennig Flair massive showdown.
Which they might have done, and maybe they did do that at some point.
But it didn't. If it doesn't stick in your head or my head, it couldn't have been. I know it was 20 years ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't watch really.
5 years ago, Jesus.
I watched like from month to month, and half of those like pay-per-view viewings for WCW for me were like the weird blurry white lines when you don't actually buy the pay-per-view.
Yeah. No, I remember we'd always get Halloween Havoc, and we'd probably get someone might get Starrcade maybe, but beyond that, I don't think we were even in the good years, we weren't consistently buying WCW pay-per-views.
No, and it was always for someone's birthday, just to squeeze out an extra.
Yeah, it was like, well, there was no October pay-per-view at that point, so I sort of had to get Halloween Havoc, because what else are we going to do in October?
Well, they eventually did like Bad Blood or Unforgiven or whatever.
Yeah, but we were 11 though. Like it
wasn't iconic. I mean, like WWF didn't have an iconic October pay-per-view.
No, they did not. It's never been a big month for WWE, regardless of what their strategy was. One
thing I have to note is Buff Bagwell flexing at the camera, pretending like he's not in the middle of a fight.
With Chris Benoit, who's probably actually beating the shit out of him.
I will say Buff does make this version of Chris Benoit look tiny. And Chris Benoit's pretty jacked up here.
He is. He's not at peak Benoit jacked up. He's not gassed to the gills, but he's taking the notes of get bigger, and he's doing his best.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. I mean, these were considered small guys. I'm like, those guys' lats are like, you line them up side by side, and it's like the width of a truck.
I would say Buff doesn't even look that great here. He looks fine. I've seen better looking Buff.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure
I think
Gigolo
Flair
Buff
looks
is probably
great here. This is about the end of peak Flair, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like he does not look. I'm sure he's incredibly old here, but he does not look, like he should not be wrestling. Like he still looks as good as anybody else out there.
Yeah, I mean he was considered old then, and in hindsight, he looks pretty damn good.
15 years later, he was still out there. So.
God.
I don't know why Syxx is wrestling in his shirt. That's a little interesting.
He's in jeans too.
Yeah, that's very weird.
He's ready for a fight.
So let's talk about the rest of this card while we're waiting. I mean, there's a lot of 5-minute intervals here. So this card it's got the typical WCW late 90s thing where it starts great. Eddie Jericho, haven't seen that match in years. I'm sure it's great. 17 minutes, that's a lot of time. So cruiserweight title match, Eddie wins. That probably rules. Then we're going Steiners versus Harlem Heat. Great, 2 Hall of Fame tag teams. Love it. No notes there. Sounds cool as hell. Then we got Alex Wright, Ultimo Dragon, and
also no notes. No, we were so into that match.
I know. I remember. Is this the one we were all super into when we were younger? Where we there was one pay-per-view I remember all of our friends sort of pick sides. Is this?
If it's not this, then it might have been a January one because I kind of remember being in Chris Exusion's basement.
Yeah,
that was
my memory as well. But it was in his basement.
But
maybe maybe there was
would not have been in this one, right?
Because how many matches could they have had? 2 matches within 5 months of each other on pay-per-view?
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, I guess.
Who else was feuding for the TV title?
I
Disco? I don't know.
I didn't even. It's pretty wild that they were in a. They got 18 minutes. They have the second longest match on the card. That's fascinating.
I mean, that's the WCW playbook because you get to the middle of the card and it's just like.
I know. I just didn't think they gave Alex Wright it. I mean, Alex Wright was fine, but Ultimo was the star there.
Alex Wright was pretty good though. I mean, he was.
Oh, here comes Konnan.
Oh, K-Dog.
Yeah, is he K-Dog yet, or is he just Konnan?
I don't know.
That cage is really that low cage is really an impediment.
Yeah.
They can't do anything off the top. They have to crouch.
And the early 90s, the cage door is even shorter. Psycho Sid powerbombs Brian Pillman, and he could barely get his feet over his head between the top of the cage and the top of Sid. So this feels like an extra half body over them.
Yeah, it's very small cage. It's makes sense, but it does. It looks cool. I will say that. It looks intimate. And it hurts, but in terms of match quality and top rope stuff, it is extremely limiting.
Yeah.
All right, so back to this card. So then you got Jeff Jarrett with his weird tights that have the straps on the top or whatever. I don't even know how to describe those. His strange Jeff Jarrett types versus Dean Malenko. 15 minutes, probably fine. Not the biggest Jeff Jarrett fan who is still wrestling in 2022. God help us, but.
Yeah.
All right, then we get Wrath and Mortis versus the Faces of Fear. Those are 4 oafs. If you like oafs, that there might be some value. We probably thought that was dumb as shit when we were 12, but I think now I'd find maybe some value there. I like the Faces of Fear. I don't really like Wrath and Mortis.
Oh, see, I like Wrath and Mortis, and
wow,
I don't
I like Meng. You don't like Meng?
Well, I do as an adult, but as a 12-year-old,
yes.
I'm like, this guy is kind of bland and a berserker. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm sure we hated it when we were little. Then we get into worse shit. Then you get into the Giant versus Scott Norton, which 5-minute match. What could the reason be to have that match? Good for Scott Norton. I mean, he's getting probably a solid payday, but
I mean, this is post the Giant in NWO, I believe.
Oh, so he's left the NWO and now they're throwing bodies at him, I guess.
Mongo. Yeah, probably.
Let's watch Mongo work here. Let's see how he looks. Because in my head, Mongo's terrible, and he probably is pretty terrible, but he probably has like a 6 moves he can even do, but...
You realize when you watch this, not to spoil things,
he's
but
doing
like...
the 3-point stance.
There's only so many moves you can really do with all these bodies. It becomes like a Royal Rumble at certain points where all you're doing is just throwing bows and like trading
stomping
chops.
him in the corner, punching the back of the head, like.
Yeah, so like that's where like they all kind of run together in my head after rewatching some of them, and I'm just like, these kind of just like, these all just feel the same to me.
Maybe it's good to get Mongo in there then, because that's all Mongo can really do anyway. So he's built for a WarGames.
Well, yeah. Well, it's also he was a Horseman. Let's not forget.
Yeah, he sure
the
was.
time-honored tradition of being a 4 Horsemen, and Mongo takes one of those spots.
So, what's the storyline with Hennig here at this point? Do you remember?
I think he was like an honorary Horseman, and then with Arn retiring.
So there was that sounds right to me too. So there were previous conversations where Flair was trying to recruit him to take Arn's spot eventually when Arn retires.
Yeah, something.
But Hennig was like, I don't want to do it for some reason.
All I remember from the lead up to this was the retirement ceremony with Arn. And then, like, the spoof, just the origin of, like, the... Like,
and Hennig was hurt, because they fake beat him up, too, don't they?
Earlier in this Fall Brawl, they do.
Yes.
And so they're like, this is a part of the narrative, too. It's like, you don't know if he's going to come out at all. You don't know what shape he's going to be. It's 3 against 4 right now, but they still march ahead.
But he was supposed to be in the match.
Yeah.
Okay, so Arn is officially, like, retired at this point.
Yes.
So Arn can't even be in the match. That wasn't even an option.
No.
Okay.
Definitely.
So they were still like, okay, that makes sense. So then they were like, Hennig, you got to be the new Arn. Hennig was like, I don't know. And then he probably said yes at some point, and then they faked beat him up.
Yeah, then they beat his ass up. And
okay.
then...
Except it was all, obviously. Oh, Nature Boy's getting ready. Brian Anderson.
Also, I believe this is in North Carolina, too.
Oh,
so,
let's check that.
Randy
Anderson, sorry. Not
extra nuclear heat when the
Winston-Salem. Wow.
See, Flair country pulling this shit.
Yep.
God. As whatever as these matches can be, when they added pinfall, that was...
So it used to be, it was only submission at the beginning.
So in 98 is when they did pinfall, and then they did 3 teams, 3 men per team, and then anyone could win it at any time with pinfall and submission, and they got a title shot against Goldberg. And it was just like, this is too confusing. Why are there teams at that point?
That makes no sense. It might as well just be a 12-man. Oh, there's Curt. So yeah, it might as well be a 12-man cage Royal Rumble, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's the worst idea. That's a horrible idea.
Yeah, it was so bad. That was the one where the Warrior kept disappearing and reappearing and stuff.
So wait, current WarGames, you're allowed to pin them though, right?
The
NXT WarGames?
NXT version you can pin.
Okay. I mean, which makes sense, but with the 3 teams, that's anarchy. And the stipulation, that's just like, what even is that at that point? That's so much. It's a lot of business.
It's too much business.
Yeah, way too much.
Although I will say this about the NXT version of these matches is like...
Oh, like, boy.
Here we go. The NXT versions, like, it becomes a 3-act play a little bit, which is like, I feel like more appropriate for this because all these have the same tropes. Heels go first. Why even fake a coin toss? Like, why even fake it?
Yeah.
Like, and then like everything that happens before the last person comes in is kind of irrelevant for the most part, and like then like something happens and like you get a submission. Like, it just follows the same formula no matter how different or interesting you try and make it. Whereas the NXT ones is they would still do those tropes, but then at the end they would always have that like weird stare down where it's like, all right, everybody's in, it's 4-on-4, and they're staring across, and they meet in the middle of a fight, and then the match really begins.
Yeah.
But at least everything before that was like super entertaining, and like there's no roof, so you do high rope spots.
They put Ricochet in there. They put guys doing flips and cool stuff. Like it was a spot. It was a spot fest until the match, like you said, really kicked into gear.
like they're actually trying to tell multiple stories.
They also
one.
seem to understand like what this match is. H obviously understands this for I mean, I'll make the point like everyone was excited that WarGames is coming to the main roster. I mean, it could be fine. Like, I mean, it's I know there are actual feuds brewing with stables now, which really, really helps because that'll actually give some weight to it. Like, the Bloodline is a 5-man stable, and you're like, well, that's cool because there's actually, like, I think there just has to be a heel stable with weight to it. And, like, NXT had that with Undisputed Era. Like, that just makes it so much better. The good guys can sort of be a grab bag if the bad guys are united and important and matter.
Well, let's have this debate. Would you rather have a WarGames or Survivor Series?
I'd rather have a WarGames, but I want it to be I'm glad it's not just a WarGames for the sake of WarGames,
Right.
Like, because it's fun and cool and it'll pop some people. Like, I'm glad there are teams, like, even just looking at the women's team, which is way more set up right now, it's, Damage Control is a little baby stable, and then it's Nikki Cross and Rhea Ripley, and it's like, well, those are all heels, I imagine, at this point, but, like, is there any cohesiveness there? Like, sort of what's the point of that,
Right.
Bianca's still the champ too, so she's in the match, which to your point doesn't really make sense. Like, as far as I know, she's beaten Bayley a bunch of times. So
no,
it's
she's
like,
lost to Bayley a few times. I thought.
But I thought Bianca's still the champ though, right?
Yeah, but she beat her in like a weird like tag matches and like I think there was a non-title match.
It just feels like that Bayley should probably be the champ at this point, and then Bianca should be chasing her to get it back. Is a better WarGames story.
I think at this point, like, they've been trying to, like, build up a rivalry with multiple women, and they didn't start this last week because it's like, oh shit, WarGames is around the corner. They started this, like, 2 months ago, where, like, and so to that, and same with, like, the Bloodline has been an ongoing story for years at this point, where it's like, okay, now that there's the WarGames, like, let's put them in there with a bunch of faces. And it still makes sense because everybody has beef with the Bloodline because they've been running roughshod over everybody.
Yeah.
So, like...
Yeah, I mean...
I like the long-termness of this current WarGames iteration, similar to the one we're watching in 97. God, we've been checked out of this match.
We should be paying attention. Well, the reason we did it was to talk WarGames overall. So, and this is this Curt? This is Curt, right?
Yeah, this is the big...
So this is the match is basically almost over.
Also, you were wrong. It's the first 5 minutes is 1-on-1, and then it's 2 minutes every entry.
Oh, okay.
So that's why you're like, oh, it's going to be 30 minutes. I'm like, it's going to be like 15.
Shows what I know. Okay. Oh, here comes Curt Hennig. We're back. Oh, Rick's got the figure 4 on. So now can the match actually end?
Oh, he's faking it. Yeah, now it's officially... Now
he's not hurt at all. Begin. Oh no. So there was a second there where you thought he was fake hurting for good, and then now it's fake hurting for bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Which would have been so stupid. Why would he do that? Oh, I guess to smuggle in the handcuff. Can't you just bring handcuffs into WarGames anyway, though? There's no disqualification. So.
Well, I think he stuck it in the.
But I'm just wondering if you came in with just handcuffs in your hand, would Mark Curtis take them away, or would they be like, well, it's WarGames?
Maybe.
I don't
know. There's a lot of shenanigans in the early '90s ones, like the Dangerous Alliance. Medusa had to climb the top of the cage and drop in Paulie Dangerously's phone.
Okay.
Like Zach Moore's cell phone.
That's pretty fun.
For Arn to use it as a weapon. So I feel like they pretend like they have the refs around to prevent that.
Yeah. So they try and maintain some order and some, even though it is technically. No DQ, but you can't bring in anything you want in there.
Which I think the NXT version of this kind of course corrected, hey, why wouldn't we bring tables and trash cans in?
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, so now the nWo is just laying waste to everybody, which is a great heat builder. Like you said, in North Carolina, that I'm sure people are furious and screaming right now. If we had the audio up, they'd be super pissed.
Yeah, WCW in the late '90s was just.
But this
it was a kettle. They just constantly were building heat, but they never took the kettle off the fucking.
Yeah, this is also this is this is what we all remember from this match. This is this is heinous. Hennig turns heel, which sucks. I mean, I don't think Hennig ever does a thing. I think he was also really hurt at this point. So I think he had intermittent bouts of feeling okay, and then would feel like shit, and then be useless. But this really, this demands like a Starcade, maybe not Starcade, because Flair's not going to be champ, but some sort of big comeuppance for Flair against Hennig, where he gets everything back, and I really don't think they ever did that.
Yeah.
Not to the extent that it stuck, and you were like, wow. Which again is the WCW way. Like this all, if you're doing, like they just never. I'm the millionth person to say this, but it's just you see it and you're like, wow, they just never gave the heels their comeuppance. You know, they just never did it.
And even later in '97, when you have Sting versus Hogan, and you tried to pay off this year-long story.
Yeah, one of the great
they
stories.
Still didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew They knew the great. Oh, look at that! Nash could barely hit Flair.
Oh my god!
To help balance Flair's head, so Nash can pull the powerbomb off in the cage.
But this is the shitty. I mean, this is why in hindsight I'm like, wow, this is a cool angle and a cool narrative, and like, I mean, again, like in the '90s, they just, at some point this all just became like less of a blow off and more of a means to continue a story. And like that's fine, I get it, and that's why this is probably memorable because this is like a really big like shocking moment, quote unquote, but like also the match is effectively over. So we're like, what are we even doing at this point? Like the match is just over. Like there's no way they can overcome this. There's just nothing they can do. Like so like why are like the match we're just delaying the inevitable at this point.
Yeah, it's okay, so at Halloween Havoc 97, Flair faced Hennig. So they paid it off fast for the United States Championship. Also not great. Okay. Flair's going to get his head smashed. But yeah, so Flair faced Hennig. He wrapped Hennig in a tree of woe, put the belt over Hennig's head, and punted ran into and kicked his face and got DQ'd. And that was the end of the feud, basically. Because then at Starrcade, Hennig faced DDP.
Sure, but she's not a horseman.
No, it has nothing. So it was for this heinous act, for this extremely memorable heinous act. Oh, there it goes. Oh.
I don't know how you fake that, by the way.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Like they're shooting him from a certain angle, so maybe they did something to something, but I really don't know.
I mean, it looked like he just got hit in the fucking head.
There was maybe there was some padding on the one side, so it wasn't like he got concertoed with both pieces of the cage. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a great question. Maybe that one pole was like made of less hard metal. I really don't know. He definitely got hit.
It looked like he got rocked to shit.
Yeah. But yeah, so they pay this off with a U.S. title match at the next pay-per-view. And Flair didn't even win the U.S. title.
Right.
So
he went to.
It's great. And he shouldn't have won the U.S. title because he's Ric Flair, but it's, that's not the payoff. That doesn't, and not even at Starrcade. Like, at least build to Starrcade, because Starrcade, then you got Flair, Hennig, you got that's it. Wow, show's over.
Oh, also credits.
Yeah, that's right.
Neil Pruitt, Keith Mitchell. These are all names I've heard in podcasts before.
Yep, that's right.
Not ours, but.
Well, there you have it. That's WarGames. That was WarGames 97, Fall Brawl 97. Well, what are your like you said you watched a few of these. Where does that one rank in your mind?
It's still very memorable. When I think of WarGames and I think of the potential it has for like big iconic, to your point, iconic moments, it still is high, and it sticks out because a lot of the NWO nonsense, like this turn felt more meaningful than just 99% of the other turns that happened for the sake of happening. So this felt more premeditated. So that's what I'll still say. The luster is definitely has worn off though for me.
Yeah, it's still fun. Like I said, it's just as an adult who knows how wrestling works, you really just you can't help but look ahead to the next thing that happened, and say, okay, where do they go from here? And when they don't go anywhere, and when they use it to build, not to blow off, it's probably not the best way. So we'll see how this WWE bringing it back works. Like that'll probably be a build, not a blow off either, because obviously Reigns is going to be in the match. He's not losing the belt. But we'll see if that serves to set up Rumble or what the hell it does. Like, I don't think that's the best use of WarGames, but there is an aura, and it is like it's a. I think it'll be like you said. It's better than a Survivor Series, and I think it'll be a nice to bring it back. I hope they use it right. And H seems to know what he's doing with it. So
I implore whoever's booking that match to go back and watch these, and because you can see what works and what does not work, and like I think there's elements of this where like I look back on like Elimination Chambers and Survivor Series, and I'm like, okay, I think pound for pound WarGames is a better concept, but like there's definitely room for improvement too. And then so it made me it's weird. It made me appreciate Elimination Chamber in some way.
Oh, you've been a not even closet Elim Cham fan for a long time now.
That's fair. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I don't love me a good Elim Cham, but ultimately though, like I think that did serve to address some of like the staleness of a WarGames format. So I hope that Triple H does go back and watch these again. I mean, I think he probably did for the NXT versions anyway, so he's already kind of course corrected in many ways, and we'll see what we end up. But yay.
Well, it was fun to watch it again, though. I like it. So I like watching wrestling in 20-minute chunks. That's the best way to watch it.
Yeah, mostly where we can just zone out and just have a sidebar.
Lots of sidebars. Well, I hope you all enjoyed our second watch along. If you want more Awesome Truth, especially our previous watch along, where like we said, Lex Luger slams Yokozuna on a battleship.
We've also watched along.
We did the Undertaker watch along, the Escape from the Undertaker.
It's our second wrestling watch along.
Yes, but you can also. I don't recommend they go back and listen to that episode again.
Yeah, is that even still on Netflix? Unclear.
Don't watch Escape from the Undertaker on Netflix. Do watch other wrestling and listen to our other episodes at awesometruth.libsyn.com. Please subscribe to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, everywhere that is. Then you get all of our new episodes as they come out. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at awesometruthpod. Well, great to talk WarGames with you. Great to talk about the upcoming match. Great to see Curt Hennig smash Ric Flair's head. All good stuff.
Well, maybe not the last part, but
well, it was good. It was good storytelling, at least. We'll give him.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's hope it's gimmicked.
Yes, let's hope it was for Rick's sake. I hope that was a nice, soft cage door. So, thank you all so much for listening, and remember, the truth will set you free.